The first one is introductions of ASEAN values. ASEAN values is a conscious alternative to the Western political values such as human rights, democracy, and capitalism, and also defined as elements of society, culture, and history common to the nations of Southeast Asia. The principles of the collectivisms, which is to unify people for their economic and social goods, also to create a pan-Asia identity. ASEAN values also asserted the Western political values were unsuited to the East Asia because they fostered excessive individualisms and legalism, which is threatened to undermine the social order and destroy the economic dynamisms. This concept was advocated by Mahathir Mohamad, which is the Prime Minister of Malaysia in 1981 until 2003, also in 2018 until 2020. Also by the Lee Kuan Yew, which is the Prime Minister of Singapore in 1959 until 1990, as well other ASEAN leaders. ASEAN values were cited were discipline, hard work, frugality, educational achievement, balancing individual and social needs, also difference of authority. It has been used by non-democratic leaders to justify maltreatment of political opponents, which has been described as violating their human rights through the justifications that human rights are not part of ASEAN values. Next is the background of ASEAN values. ASEAN values was a political ideology of 1990s, which is the late 20th century, by some ASEAN political leaders and intellectuals. ASEAN values were codified and promoted in the Bangkok Declaration in 1993. Which re-emphasized the principles of sovereignty, self-determination, and non-interference in civil and political rights. They include preference for social harmony, which is the concern with the socio-economic prosperity and the collective self-being of the community, loyalty and respect toward figures of authority, and preference for collectivisms and communitarisms. The concept was advocated by Mahathir Mohamad, which is the Prime Minister of Malaysia in 1991 until 2003, and also 2018 until 2020. Also with the Lee Kuan Yew, which is the Prime Minister of Singapore in 1959 until 1990s. The concept of to unify the geographical regional identify at the time of popularity in 20th century, which is not strictly limited to Asia. ASEAN values also gained popularity in the People's Republic of China, and that time Malaysia was under Mahathir Mohamad and Singapore was under Lee Kuan Yew. Indonesia and Japan perhaps as early as the pre-World II eras. Lastly, ASEAN value is highlight the proponents in Malaysia and Singapore claim that the concept help reconcile Islam, Confucianism, and Hinduism was unifying because it was different to the philosophy of the West.
Okay, 4-point emphasis on the community rather than individual. There is some emphasis on the community that advocated by Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad. First and foremost is inter-ethnic relation. Responsibility is another value. Is the duty of the people to ensure that all that is mutually agreed upon is implemented collectively. Tun Dr. Mahathir also called on his people to cooperate. The cooperation is on the other hand promote the understanding of ethnic group in doing something that is national in nature. For example, in developing the country. Okay, second is the application of poor values was also applied by Dr. Mahathir. For example, integrity in community. Integrity on other hand is the possession of strong moral principle. It also promote good character. It also advocated the practice on consideration for other ethnicity. Okay, lastly, is national identities. It is also important to community in producing patriotic people. Okay, for this point, we can see that the people will not only have a strong national identity, but we also show a strong attachment to the country. Okay, that's all from me about emphasis on the community rather than individual. Thank you. Alright, for next point is emphasis on family loyalty. First and foremost, Dr. Mahathir emphasis on family loyalty because it is one of the ways to unite the community in a country. There are several characteristics of family loyalty which is by adopting a healthy lifestyle. Every family member should practice a healthy lifestyle by eating a balanced diet and doing leisure activities outside together. Therefore, by adopting a healthy lifestyle, the body will become stronger from disease. Okay, for in addition, is playing a role. As children, they need to be obedient and respect their parents. Also, and as parents, they must provide for every need and external and internal sustenance. Okay, for example, if children has a problem, the parents must responsible for the children by giving them advice and so on. Okay, besides provide adequate religious and moral education. Perhaps parents should ensure that children do not associate with friends and bad moral and attitude. Therefore, provide adequate religious and moral education because it can help from high personal values and at the same time can contribute toward the formation of a happy family. Okay, that's all from me about emphasis on family loyalty. Thank you.
There is a widespread suspicion that the West has a secret purpose to stifle Aja's growth by changing the rules and implementing new forms of protectionism in order to retain hegemony. According to Mahathir, who has a cultural relatives viewpoint, Western pressure on developing nations like Malaysia, where human rights and democratization are lacking, causes instability, recession, economy, and poverty. They believe that their political and economic ideas and systems are superior to those of others. According to Mahathir, the West has a history of violating human rights and is far from exemplary in terms of democracy. Moreover, Mahathir also criticized social movements, particularly the role of non-governmental groups in human rights, which see themselves as the instruments of Western power. This is due to the fact that human rights activities, which are typically promoted by foreign nations and organizations, become an obstacle to the country's economic progress, endanger the country's stability, and do not contribute to social well-being. Mahathir ideas provide an effective answer by critics by arguing that the strategy was supported by ASEAN principles. Mahathir was able to attain the respect and credibility in order to criticize dictators' changes. Through his action as a charismatic leader, Mahathir was able to construct a case in an international arena for developing the country. Tolerance and cultural pluralism are about setting a conservative political agenda and maintaining highly unjust and oppressive political system. Western societies curb non-individuals by groups such as family, economy, enterprises, and the state. Relativism has often been a beneficial ideology in strengthening defense and creating worldwide agreement in the face of governmental oppression. Human rights advocates believe that Asian values are more than just a justification for rulers to maintain control. Governments have domineering influence over many elements of life that Westerners view as inappropriate. Several critics claim that Asian development strategies undermine traditional social rights as freedom of association and expression may be needed to protect endangered communities. Human rights must be used to protect and serve society as well as the individuals. The respect between Malaysians and Westerners is that although Malaysians are ruled under a secular political system, they are deeply bound by their culture and religion. This is not like Western society, which strongly believes in secularism and individualism. Especially in the United States and in the Kingdom. The perspective of Asian values creates confusion by dropping the community into the state, where similarities between society and state are made. Such criticism becomes a crime against the nation state, society, and people.
Featured of ASEAN value as a political ideology advocated by Tun Dr. Mahathir, Mohamad is emphasis on serving and thriftiness. It is focusing on serving and thriftiness is a culture that does not focus entirely on scholarship or any assistance alone. The country must be frugal and work hard to face difficult in fostering economic growth. This is because ASEAN value include knowledge, frugality, and hard work. According to Dr. Mahathir, values such as hard work in every matter, including the discipline that exists in the social structure, can be also transferred to political structure to stabilize a country compared to if it only expects help from outside only. Developing countries should strive to be able to state that ASEAN values have created a new path to economic prosperity that is incompatible with democracy. The progress and ideology of Tun Dr. Mahathir can have a big impact on the country's economy, especially when her focus and encourage the country to strive to depend on the produce in the country. In fact, Malaysia needs to diversify relations with other countries to balance the country's position so that it does not depend too much on certain countries only. Malaysia does not politics and economic to be dominant and to depend on one country only. Lastly, the feature is respect for authority or government. Tun Dr. Mahathir thinks that the principle of might is right. Show who is the most powerful, then who is the one who has the power. A stable administration in line with economic strength and able to compete with developed countries must be owned by a country like Malaysia. This is because in order to avoid continued colonization through the economy of first world country, the best way for a country like Malaysia is to have a strong and respected government or authority. Without strong authority, then social will easily fall toward an anarchic style of administration. Developing country can do something through a weak government or no government at all, because it does not give too high an impact to the country. Political division will affect everyone's time and mind, as can be seen in most developing countries nowadays. Even so, the strength and power of authority absolutely does not lead to the development and prosperity of the country. Strong authority is an essential element to ensure the formation of a government that not only guarantees the right of individual but also obligation to society are preserved.
In conclusion, ASEAN values really made a good impact in administration in a country. This is because ASEAN values focus on a community compared to individual in a country and strengthen an institutions more clearly, such as loyalty to an organization and institutions that will lead to unity and strengthen the institutions. also emphasizes the nature of unity regardless of race, ethnicity, religion, because ASEAN values strongly push to separate religion from the sphere of life. Also, that every citizens and everyone will be one. Next is people's life to be more secure and feel free. This is because they are free to do anything, because the right of freedom for everyone make the country safe and peaceful. ASEAN values also give a good effect to development of a country. This is because when the government and people who do the business, which is the private sector, they will produce and provide the best service and product to serve the everyone.